So, you want to be an engineer and you're learning about design and creativity. Why? Well, because design is a vital component of engineering, because as engineers, we need to constantly adapt our solutions to the ever-changing world around us. This is a creative act involving imagination, intuition, and deliberate choice. Let's look at an example of how creative ideas play a role in engineering. If I asked you what the primary mode of transportation was in the 1800s, what would your response be? A Ford pickup? Wrong. Of course, it was a horse and buggy. But something changed around the 1830s when a new technological innovation was designed, of course by an engineer, that revolutionized the way people traveled. This was the steam-powered locomotive that helped create the first passenger railcar. This was a stark innovation because it allowed about 36 passengers to travel up to 18 miles per hour. This was huge for the day. However, traveling on these early rail carriages was uncomfortable and often extremely dangerous because the first passenger cars were built by carriage makers, and as a result, they looked like coaches mounted on four-wheeled railroads. Similar to riding in a horse and buggy, passengers in these early rail cars often rode both inside the coach and on benches mounted outside. Not only was there no protection from the black smoke and heat coming off of the steam engine itself, but people were often ejected or fell off the rail cars, causing many injuries and death. What does this example illustrate? It illustrates the importance of developing new, creative solutions to constantly evolving problems and innovating in every aspect of the design. But what does it mean to be creative? In his book, Human Motivation, Robert E. Franken defined creativity as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. But in engineering design, we usually say something is creative when it's both novel or new and technically feasible. In other words, it would actually solve the design problem. A classic problem with engineering creativity can be demonstrated in a very simple design problem, which goes as follows. First, everyone take out a piece of paper and pencil. Next, draw 9 dots in 3 rows and 3 columns. Now, connect the dots using 4 straight, continuous lines that pass through each of the 9 dots, never lifting the pencil from the paper. Go ahead, give it a shot. When we give this design problem to engineering students, many fail. Why? It's such a simple task. What happens is when we start the process of connecting the dot, we realize that no matter how many ideas we generate, or lines we draw, we still need a 5th line to connect all of these dots. No matter how many times we try, it doesn't work out. Why is that? It's because we have added hidden constraints that don't actually exist to the design problem. Nowhere in the instructions did it say that you need to stay inside the box. In fact, to solve the problem, we need to think outside the box. The only way that we can solve this problem is to draw a continuous line outside the box. This is a classic error that we see in design problems. As engineers, we like constraints. We feel comfortable with constraints. We feel secure with constraints. But design problems are often big and open-ended. So, to make design problems more manageable, engineers often add constraints that don't exist to simplify the problem. This is a real problem because we could lose a lot of creative capital this way. It's also important for us to reflect on the design problem and identify what our real constraints are. In addition to adding constraints, once we start developing a design solution, we have a hard time breaking outside of our own box or thinking about the problem in a different way. Why is this? Let's think about this in terms you may be able to relate to. How many times have you been working on a math problem and you just can't figure it out? You keep working on it, you keep trying to solve it, you keep arriving at the same wrong solution. Then you take a break. Maybe you go on a walk or you take a shower, maybe you go to sleep for the night, wake up a few hours later, and you come back to the problem and Eureka! You figured it out! This is because of the way we become fixated on how we were trying to solve the problem before. This fixation keeps us from thinking of new ways to solve the problem. This is very important because this fixation occurs in design too. Design fixation is defined as a blind adherence to a set of ideas or concepts that limits the output of conceptual design. What does this mean? Typically, when we're working in design space, we're building off of ideas that already exist. For example, if I asked you to develop a next-generation telephone, it'd probably be pretty difficult for you to come up with new ideas that haven't already existed before. This is because we're so attuned to what already exists on the market that it's very difficult for us to get outside of this box. There are several tools that we can use that are at our disposal that can help us overcome these fixation effects. The first thing that we can do to help us overcome fixation is to use idea generation techniques. These techniques say there is no such thing as a bad idea, and we should develop as many ideas as possible in hopes that we get one or two quality ideas. The next key that we have to overcome fixation is to work in a diverse team. Why? Well, because the ideas we generated are heavily influenced by the experiences that we've had. Therefore, working in a diverse team provides your team with a wide variety of experiences to draw on. This ultimately leads to the most creative and inspirational idea generation sessions. The last step is to work in a creative environment. When I say creative environment, I don't mean a room with flashing lights and crazy furniture. I mean an environment where you feel comfortable putting your ideas out there. Don't judge others' ideas prematurely. Let other people talk and have a conversation, and be supportive and have fun. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about why creativity is important in engineering design and how creativity fits into the idea generation process. You should be leaving this video with a little bit better understanding of how idea generation techniques and other activities influence your ability to come up with creative ideas. So give it a shot. Come up with some really innovative, creative solutions that you can apply in your engineering design problem.